Hello there, I am the CCG collector. Throughout the Star Wars CCG, it's usually been pretty obvious to tell which cards came from which set. For example, this Mon Calamari Star Cruiser has an icon in the top right indicating it came from the Death Star 2 set, while this Dodge card has an icon indicating it came from Cloud City. In addition, it's been pretty obvious which cards came from the first print runs, cards with a black border, and cards that came from an unlimited or revised printing run that followed, cards with a white border. Usually these cards are otherwise identical, same text, same cost, same effect, same icon, just the different border. But that's not always the case. A number of cards in the game do have minor differences from set to set, and if you don't know what you're looking for, it's very easy to assume two cards are identical when they're really not. Now these problems started from the very beginning with the Premier set. So the Premier set, its first print run was in 1995. It had a black border, it had no icon in the upper right. And it didn't need one. It was the only set of cards that Decipher had printed up until that point. And right out of the gate, they also released a two-player starter set. And this was to give two people, two pre-constructed decks so they could get into the game and see if they liked it or not before they bought booster packs and cards. In order to differentiate those cards from the real set, they put them in a white border. So this Electro Binoculars, for example, is from the two-player starter set, the two-player game. And you can tell it's that because it has that white border. Now this was before they released the unlimited version of Premier. So the cards are identical, right? They got the same destiny, they got the same deploy cost, use 2 force to deploy any warrior, use 1 force to use the card, so far so good. However, that was a mistake. That was a mistake because the card was a little bit too powerful like that. Ideally, and the intention was that you would deploy it for 1 force, and then every time you wanted to peek on the top card of your reserve deck, it would require 2 force. They fixed this in the unlimited release of the game with this card, Electro Binoculars. Very, very similar to this one right here, but as you can tell, even though they both have the white border, the one on the left has the corrected text, the one on the right does not. So, if you find yourself with a copy of Electro Binoculars that has a white border and the use 2 force to deploy, use 1 force to use text, that is not from Premier Unlimited, that is from the Premier two-player game. Another card that had a similar correction was Lars Moisture Farm. The original text of the card on the black border release said Owen Lars, Beru Lars, and Luke deploy -1 here. So far so good, but Owen Lars already deploys for free. Deploys free at Lars Moisture Farm. You see it right there. So that text was redundant and incorrect. But when they released the two-player starter set, they had not yet corrected that text. So you have a white border version of the card that still says Owen Lars, Beru Lars, and Luke deploy -1 here. When Decipher released the unlimited version with the revised text, it was corrected. It said just Beru and Luke deploy -1 here, which makes sense because Owen deploys for free. So again, as with the Electro Binoculars, if you see a white-bordered card with the black-bordered text, you know that is not from Premier Unlimited, but it is from the Premier two-player game. And finally, the two-player game had a number of cards that were exclusive to it. Most of the cards came from the Premier set, right? Like Electro Binoculars, like Lars Moisture Farm, Stormtroopers, Rebel Troopers, the like. They were all reprinted cards from the first Premier set. However, to kind of sweeten the deal for new players, they threw in a number of cards exclusive to that two-player game. And on the face of them, they look like Premier Unlimited cards. You got no icon, you got the white border, but these are not Premier Unlimited. These are actually premium cards, but they were printed before Decipher came up with a premium icon. Now normally there's a little seeker icon, and I'll show you that when I demonstrate some later cards, that indicates that this is a card with a fixed rarity that you can only find in one given spot. You can never find it by opening booster packs. So, if you were, as I was when I first started sorting my cards, trying to put my Luke in my Premier set, trying to put Run Luke Run, trying to put Death Star Docking Control Room 327 in my binders, because to me they looked like Premier Unlimited. I had no idea many years ago that these were not from the Premier Unlimited set. They were not from that 326 card set that you could get in boosters and starter decks. These 6 cards right here are only exclusive to that 2-player game. Now, the problems did not get any better, and I say problems, they're not really problems, they're more like minor issues, but they did not get any better with the release of the Hoth set and the Empire Strikes Back 2-player set. Again, this set had a number of premium cards, but in that case, the premium cards were released with a white border because, again, it was a set distinct from the game, from the boosters, the cards you can get in booster packs, and you could only get it in that Empire Strikes Back 2-player game. And these cards had the white border, like I said, but they now had the little Seeker, the premium icon, in the upper right. However, this set reprinted cards from Premier, reprinted cards from A New Hope. And because of that, cards that may look identical are not. The Empire Strikes Back 2-player set was released in 1996. So, of course, any cards from it, like It Could Be Worse, have that 1996 copyright date, which you can see right there. But the Premier Unlimited release had a 1995 copyright date. Same card, white border, It Could Be Worse, but if it'll focus, it'll say right there, 1995. So these 2 cards, almost identical. Use Interrupt. If you must lose force for any reason, reduce the loss by X by using X force. Means same lore, same everything. Colors even look very similar, but one comes from 1996, one comes from 1996, one comes from 1995. And the copyright 1996 card is from the Empire Strikes Back 2-player set. And this happened one more time when they released the Death Star 2 starter decks. Now this was in 2000, this was many years down the line, but because they wanted to give people a good, well-rounded game experience, they would have basic weapons, and your most basic weapon is a blaster rifle. So here you go, you got your blaster rifle from the Death Star 2 starter set. But that is a reprint of the blaster rifle from Premier. Now on the surface, it looks the same. As I always say, same picture, same text, same rules, same destiny. Same icon, or lack of an icon. But not only can you tell that the ink and the card quality is a little bit different on this Death Star 2 one, but if we look at the copyright dates again, you can see that the one on the bottom is from 1995. That is an original Premier blaster rifle, while the one on the top is copyright 2000. Because that was when the Death Star 2 set was released. Now, for the most part, that's not a huge deal. I mean, a blaster rifle is a blaster rifle. It's a 2-cent card, who cares if it came from the fixed set or if it came from the original Premier set. But for cards like General Solo, that does matter. Because anytime you opened a Death Star 2 starter deck, you were guaranteed to get a copy of General Solo. But he was a rare from Endor, so it was a lot harder to get the Endor version of General Solo. Again, identical icon. They look like they're both from Endor. The ink is a little bit different on this one. You can see it's, I don't want to say darker, like more brown maybe. But other than that, the cards look the same. But if we look at the copyright dates, General Solo on top is from 1999. General Solo on the bottom is from 2000. So hopefully you guys can see that. But the 1999 card is from Endor. The 2000 card is from Death Star 2. This one is fixed rarity and less valuable than this rare from Endor. There were also anthology sets. Now, an anthology is a collection of, kind of like a callback of cards that they had released before. So you'd have your first anthology, which came in a big 800 card box. It didn't have 800 cards in it. It had a New Hope booster pack, some Premier booster packs, and it had a couple of preview cards. So if we take a look at those, you'll have cards like Commander Wedge Antilles. Now, you see a card like this, you see, hey, that's a special edition card, but Special Edition did not have an unlimited or a revised print run. It just had the single black border limited print run. And that's true. These cards, if you see a white bordered Special Edition card like Commander Wedge Antilles, that means it was a preview card in the first anthology box. So I believe the copyright dates are different. Yes. The preview card is copyright 1997. The actual release is copyright 1998. So this is a rare instance of the white bordered card having a copyright date that is earlier than the black bordered card. And this is because instead of being a revision of the card, it was a preview of the card. This happened again with Death Star 2 cards, well, with the second anthology rather. And there they previewed cards from Death Star 2, they previewed cards from Endor, and that's how you get cards like this white-bordered Mon Calamari Star Cruiser. Now, the proper card, of course, is the black-bordered one, and Death Star 2 did not have a white-bordered revised release. But as a preview card, it needed to be distinct from the Death Star 2 one. And again, you can see, let's see if I can see here, 1998 is the copyright date on the top one, on the white preview card. 2000 is the copyright date on the actual Death Star 2 release. So if you see a white border of a card that is after Dagobah, actually after Jabba's Palace, because Cloud City and Jabba's Palace did not have preview cards, but if you see those, know that they are previews, not revisions. And finally, from the anthology perspective, the first anthology contained what was called a Jedi Pack, and that had a number of black-bordered cards just to kind of enhance your game. One of the cards in that anthology Jedi Pack was Leia, which you may remember from earlier in the video was a card that had been printed in the Empire Strikes Back two-player game. The Empire Strikes Back one has a white border. The Jedi Pack one has a black border. As far as I know, this is the only instance of a premium card, note the Seeker icon in the top right, having both a white border and a black border edition of it. So, if you see a black border Leia premium, you know that she is from the Jedi Pack. If you see a white border Leia premium, you know that she is from the Empire Strikes Back two-player game. And as I was saying earlier, speaking of revisions, occasionally Decipher had revisions that they needed to do that could not wait for a revised set. Now, this happened first with Hoth. You've got this card right here, K3PO, right? Seems pretty standard. It's a droid. It's got power. It's got game text, whatever. And you have this card, R3PO, from Hoth. Notice something about it. That's right. This image on R3PO is incorrect. And you can see everything else is different. The game text is different. May initiate battle and be battled once per turn during a control phase, etc., etc. The lore is different. The destinies are different. So this is a unique card. R3PO is a unique card from K3PO. However, they incorrectly put the K3PO image on there. So if you're just going through your cards quickly, and you see this image right here, it may not be K3PO. Now, this was corrected in the revised version of Hoth, as a lot of errors were corrected. Like the electrobinoculars error was corrected in the unlimited revised version of Premiere. So this was corrected in the revised version of Hoth, and you can see that the two cards are, again, identical. You got the same, now you have the same title, now you have the same lore, now you have the same game text, same deploy, same everything. But this one has the corrected picture, and that's because it came from the revised version of Hoth. However, if you did not want to wait for the revised version, you could mail in, I think. I don't know exactly how you would get it, but it would be a single card in a plastic seal, a corrected card, and that would be this R3PO black border. So we'll get the full crew here. You have the original R3PO card that would come in Hoth booster packs with the incorrect image. You would have the corrected R3PO card, which you had to, I believe, mail in for. Black border, correct picture. And then you had the revised version, white border, correct picture. And this one came from Hoth revised booster packs. Hoth was not the only issue, not the only set that had error cards that needed to be reprinted, though. Dagobah also had this as a concern. In its original print run, it had a card called Asteroid Sanctuary. Deploy on any asteroid sector. During each of opponent's control phases, opponent loses X force, where X is the total number of asteroid sectors, etc., etc. The point is, they realized right away that this was a rather broken card as it was written. Deploy on any asteroid sector at all. So immediately, they rushed out to get this corrected card. Same deal, but it says deploy on any asteroid sector you control. Very important difference, very important wording change. And, of course, they did correct that in the revised version. So, again, you see we have 3 versions of Asteroid Sanctuary. One is the original. One is the revised. This one you got in limited edition Dagobah booster packs. This one you got in revised edition booster packs. This middle one only came, I think there was a magazine promotion, like Scry or one of those magazines included the corrected card, and you could also probably mail in for it. So if you see a black border Asteroid Sanctuary in your collection, make sure that as you're looking at it, you see what the text says, because you may have a version that you don't expect. And speaking of minor version differences, Cloud City also had this. And let me see if I can find, here we go. Cloud City also had this. You would have the card Dodge, which I showed earlier. And it's pretty straightforward. If any of your characters' ability greater than 2 is just targeted by a weapon, da-da-da-da, move the character away as a react for free. Nothing wrong with it. But somehow, on the same sheet, they had a different typesetting. And that different typesetting resulted in that last word being cut off, as you can see on the right. Move that character away as a react for. So this is not, I mean, it's an error, but you can find both of these cards in Cloud City booster packs. There was no corrected card mailed out. There's nothing like that. It's just half the time you got the right one, half the time you got the wrong one. So if you have Dodge, look out for that. I think that takes us to the end of the ordinary nuanced cards, card differences throughout the game. But there's one little thing later on. In the Episode 1 cards, they had a little thing, well, they had alternate image cards. And for 9 cards in each set, in Tatooine, in Coruscant, in in Theed Palace, there were 9 cards that 1 in 4 times you would get a special cool version of the card, image-wise, and 3 in 4 times you would get the standard one. So how can you tell that a card, which would otherwise have the same text, whether it's an AI or not? Well, here is the Coruscant set of AIs. And yes, if you know the images to look for, you can tell. Alright, if Mace Windu looks like this, that is the alternate image. If Master Qui-Gon looks like that, if the Phantom Menace looks like that, and so on. But other than that, there's not much of a difference. Here, for example, is the non-alternate image Darth Maul Young Apprentice. Now, I don't know how well my camera setup is going to work here, but I'm going to try to show you the difference between the two. So if we look very closely, you can see that the alternate image version of the card has sort of a slightly more gold border around the Coruscant icon. So that's the icon right there. Whereas, yeah, I'm getting this in shadow here. Whereas the standard image has more of a grayish or bronze kind of border. Now it's very subtle. There's not much of a difference that you can see there, but it does exist. There, that's coming through a lot better now. So the alternate image has a nice gold border. The standard image has the grayish silver border around that icon there. So that's that. If you have a Coruscant card and you think, oh, this might be an AI, but I don't know what the AI looks like, well, just look around that icon and you'll either see the dull border or the bright gold border. And that's how you know if you have a pretty valuable card or a really valuable card. And as far as I know, that's it. Those are all the cards in the game. They have those tiny little minor differences that might otherwise seem identical. So, hey, if you guys know any more, definitely let me know. Otherwise, hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you all for watching. I'm the CCG Collector, and I'll see you next time.